Hello, everyone. On the 22nd, there's going to be a triple conjunction in the western sky after sunset. And as it is falling on the date of Ash Wednesday this year, this gives me occasion to, first of all, think about fasting and Lent itself, what Lent is good for and what fasting does to your physical body, and also about visibility. So these are today's two main topics. So let's talk about Lent first and Ash Wednesday. Of course, Ash Wednesday is the commencement of Lent, and it is a 6-week period when those people who are religious are fasting. And if you consider fasting itself, it is a very, very beneficial practice. First of all, nowadays, there is a procedure that you can adopt if you have any ailment or any condition which requires you to have periods when you don't actually eat solid food. Probably you heard about this. It's the 8/16 diet. It's not really a diet. It simply means that for 16 hours you don't eat anything, and then within 8 hours, so it's not 6, 8 hours you can eat as many times as you want, and as much and as much as you want, and whatever you want. And this is not really a diet. So you're not going to slim down. You're not going to lose weight. What it does to your physical body is to put the balance back. In the last 20, 30, 50 years here in Western Europe, we didn't encounter hunger, true hunger. Yes, in other parts of the world we have that, unfortunately, but in the second half of the 20th century, many people came out of extreme poverty, and this is really something brilliant. But on the other hand, especially in Western countries and in the United States, obesity became a big problem and overeating became a big problem. So actually we fell on the other side of the thing, fell off the other side of the horse. I think there's such an expression, at least in Hungarian, we do have such. And it means that instead of trying to maintain some balanced diet, some balanced eating habits, we started to overeat. And it's really bad to your physical body, because your stomach can't actually concentrate on getting rid of poisons, because it's always digesting instead of getting rid of any poisons that are accumulating in your body. And and this is important, that lately I encountered 3 different accounts of people who are very close to me and have relatives or friends who were seriously ill. I think all 3 of them had cancer, serious cancer, and all 3 were healed by simply not eating solid food for 3 weeks. Of course, they had to take vitamins and minerals, and they also had to take their medications, and they had to drink a lot, mainly fresh juices and soups, clear soups, vegetable soups, but they completely got cleared of cancerous cells, simply because if you don't feed those cells, they die. So it's a brilliant method. And even if you hopefully don't have such a condition, you can actually put your balance back by trying to have longer periods of not eating, and then concentrating on eating on a shorter period. So the 16-hour diet is linked to health and not slimming. Having said that, this is what we start on Ash Wednesday. But this 6 weeks of fasting, and in Hungarian, the Roman Catholic Church teaches that you can only eat 3 times a day, and you can only fill your stomach properly only once a day. And of course, there's no meat and whatever. So vegans can be very happy with this diet. But this is more about concentrating on your spiritual elements, on your spiritual well-being. It gives you a lot of time to contemplate, to look inside you, to pray, to meditate. And so the spiritual aspects of Lent is even more important than the physical aspects. It depends on what you choose. The other topic, which is also linked to the Ash Wednesday energies, is visibility. And here is going to be a triple conjunction. I'm almost sure that you have read about it already, have heard about it. We are 2.5 days after the new moon, the Pisces new moon, and there will be, after sunset, there will be a triple conjunction in the western sky. The crescent moon, which is not yet crescent, so it's the new moon crescent, let's put it this way. The new moon crescent will link the Venus and Jupiter, because it's right at their midpoint. And of course, Venus is the Fortuna minor and Jupiter is Fortuna major. So actually the two luck planets are linked linked by the moon, so to speak. But also, if you look at the moon Venus conjunction, is quite interesting, because those are the two feminine planets, which we are going to explore later on. And what I would like to show you here is that this is, hold on, what happened here? Sorry. Why is this? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so here we are. Something happened to my sometimes things want to push to the forefront. I'm sure this, so sometimes my computer has its own ideas about how to function and what to do. Anyhow, this particular chart that I'm showing here for you gives you the visible planets, the 7 visible planets, of course, the 2 luminaries and the 5 personal planets. And this is for London. And in London, on February the 22nd, the sunset is at 1840. The sunset is at 1727, sorry. And this is for 1840, approximately an hour and 10 minutes later, because the nautical twilight occurs at 1840. Now, what is nautical twilight and what is civil twilight? Civil twilight is something in the big cities, since we have common electricity, is the fact that whenever it's getting dark or gloomy, the lights are coming up, and so the streets are being lit, and you can feel more in power and more secure if, of course, the streets are being lit. One thing about this horrible war going on and the stupid measures that the EU is putting us on, and you guys in England are not better off, because you have a cretin as a prime minister, and the whole ruling elite, ruling class is just horribly corrupt and incompetent. So they are just selling the whole Europe short to the Americans, unfortunately, because just today is the 18th, and I'm recording this on the 18th, and I read today that there's a conference about security or something like that, and our leader, Ursula von der Leyen, who we only call Ursula von der Lügen. Lügen, of course, means lying. She's a liar. She's a terrible liar and a totally dishonest person. And she admitted, she actually bragged about it, that 2 months prior the Russian invasion on Ukraine, or Russian attack on Ukraine, they already, so this is December 2021, they agreed, the EU agreed with the Americans, as a result of the ushering or pushing of the Americans, that what the sanctions are going to be if this happens. Think about it. How dishonest, how cynical is this? So the Americans already gave orders, what to push on us. And of course, our elite is willingly doing it and ruining the economy and the people's lives in Europe. So this is totally dishonest and horrible. Anyhow, so to go back to the nautical and civil twilight. So during the civil twilight, this is the time when the lights come up. So you can see that the sunset is at 17, it's at 5:30, and at 6 o'clock, the lights come up. And the nautical twilight is 40 minutes later. And this is when the dark gray sky turns dark black, okay, really black. And that is when the celestial bodies are going to be illuminated in the sky. So that is nautical twilight, when you can actually see what's in the sky. And these are the visible planets. So this is what we would see right after, or not just right after sunset, about an hour after sunset. You can see the crescent of Venus, and also the new moon crescent, and Jupiter. So you have the two luck planets and the moon at their midpoints. And of course, Saturn and Mercury are under the horizon. They are coming up at dawn, and you have Mars on the middle of the sky. So that's what you could see. What could we see? What would we see if we could see the transcendental planets? Anyhow, just a couple of minutes afterwards, I didn't show here any of the other planets that are underneath the horizon, except for Lilith. I could have waited for another 10 minutes and then Lilith would be on the ascendant, but that's the nautical twilight ending time or starting time. So I thought, let's be accurate here. And this is what you would be able to see if your naked eye would be like a telescope. Lilith would come up in 10 minutes on the horizon. You have Trans-Pluto, Black Moon Lilith, Pallas Athena, Sedna, Uranus, Aries and Juno, Chiron and Neptune. Neptune is going to set in like 20 minutes time. But what is most interesting for us is this traffic jam here between Venus and the moon, the two feminine planets. So let's take this apart a little bit, because here you can see three very distinctly different feminine archetypes between the two feminine planets. If you take a look at astrology, traditionally, out of the 7 visible planets, only 2 are feminine, Venus and the moon. And despite the fact that this could be, they could be harmonized, of course, really in patriarchal times, the feminine got dissected, because otherwise, if they let it be, then she would still be a goddess. But of course, this was something that that patriarchy couldn't allow. So they dissected the feminine and took the reproductive function into the moon. So she was the wife who delivered the children, and put the joy-creating function in Venus. So those were the hetiras, the geishas, the courtesans, the ladies of the street or the corner who gave pleasure for money. And these two archetypes were hermetically, separated. And so, for instance, in a marriage, if you were a wife, you couldn't actually feel very happy about being in a love relationship. At the same time, when you were a street woman, you weren't able to deliver children and have a happy life. So it's very, very sad. But as a result, we women have 2 distinct feminine phases. In the very first phase, right after puberty, we are trying to look for a mate who could be the husband, and not just the husband, because it's not really the hand fasting that is important here, but the father of our children. We invariably fall in love with someone who we could accept as a father of our children. It's very, very funny how many times the moment you deliver the child, you get into this very close relationship with your son or your daughter, and then the poor husband or the poor father is really kind of excluded in this relationship. And of course, unless he developed some traits or is equally happy about the child, or is willing to put his energy and effort into this threesome relationship, really, because there's always There's always, when there's a child, there's a love triangle. You can treat them as a love triangle because they behave like this. And unless you have some sort of agreement how to deal with the love triangle, it could be deadly for the, either for the, most of the time for the father who feels totally excluded, but also for the child who may not get enough of his father, or the woman or the mother who fears that the father, after all, or her husband or her mate abandons her. So it's something that needs to be discussed and needs to be dealt with. Otherwise, the energy patterns can go very, very stray. So that's our first phase. We are trying to find the father of our future children. And the second phase comes much later, either still within the relationship, if you are lucky, if you are very consciously working on your relationship, because once the children are growing up and leaving the house, there you will stay with your husband or your wife or your partner, and then you need to do something about each other. And unless you think about this very hard and fast and strong and wisely, it is going to fall apart. And or of course you can actually get a divorce or get a separation and have a second mate, a second partner who will be dealing with you not as a moon but as a Venus. So then you will have your Venus phase. This could be done in one phase, of course, if you're lucky enough, if you are willing to work on your relationship. I read a brilliant book. It's called Darling. And it's really brilliant. I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm so cynical. I always say to young women who are seeking their true love, their true partner, the one and only true love, that really you want true love, okay, get a weapon and just shoot your fiance or your lover on the very first night when you feel very, very much loved. But that's what's happening in this novel, that by the time they find each other and have this bliss of love, they die almost instantly, immediately. So yeah, unfortunately, if you want a relationship to be workable, to be long lasting, you need a lot of work, a lot of energy and effort to put into it. Anyhow, so here we have 3 feminine archetypes squashed between Venus and the moon: Vesta, which is the focusing principle; Astrea, which is the karma breaker, the destiny changer; and Dark Moon Lilith, which is the second turning point in the Lilith myths. If you are interested, I do have like 4 or 5 different videos on the Liliths, on the 3 astrological Liliths, which we are going to look at in a minute. And this is the middle Lilith, the moment when Lilith leaves the Garden of Eden and takes upon herself Yahweh's curse, which we are going to look at in a minute in detail. So here are the 3 astrological Liliths. Quite interesting. Why am I not doing this right? Here you are. And they are forming a so-called quindecile engine. Engines are triangles where you have 3 different aspects, 3 aspects that come from 3 different aspect families. The classic engine is made up by a quincunx, a trine, and a square, and it's a very powerful configuration because it joins, it unifies the tension of the square, the blessing of the trine, and the karmic intent of the quincunx. This particular one is a quindecile, which is obsession or ambition, a trine, which is blessing, and a 45-degree, a semi-square, which gives you the tension, not as big a tension as a square, but the quindecile itself gives you the drive, the obsession, the obsessive compulsive drive. And here are the 3 astrological Liliths. The asteroid Lilith is rising, revolt against injustice. The dark moon Lilith makes a quindecile to it in this particular moment, which is the acceptance upon the, it's the moment when Lilith doesn't go back into the Garden of Eden, leaves it and accepts Yahweh's curse. Think about this for a moment. It describes a moment in time when Yahweh, the God of the Judeo-Christian religion, cannot deal with the feminine of his own creation. He creates the world, but he doesn't know what to do with the feminine side of it and curses it. Okay, think about this for a moment and think about, I always say that each nation and each group and each era gets its proper gods. What tells you about the Judeo-Christian God from such a viewpoint? Anyhow, so that is the dark moon Lilith, which means that I accept the curse. I don't care. I don't care. Just curse me if you want. And then it trines the black moon Lilith, which is the third turning point of the myth, when Lilith realizes that Eve is being manufactured and she doesn't have a clue, what it is to be a feminine. So she goes back into the Garden of Eden in the form of a serpent in order to give advice and wisdom to Eve. And so that requires knowledge, courage, stamina, determination, honesty, and also clairvoyance, because she needs to see what's happening. So that is the three astrological Liliths forming a quindecile engine. And here you have the transcendental celestial objects. We always look at this as well. On the asteroid Lilith, there's Prometheus, the Titan, whose name means the one who sees before. So he's a seer. He knows what's going to happen, and that is why he is supporting Zeus in his fight against the other Titans, and Zeus, and then of course he gives the fire to mankind, because he always knows what the next step in history is going to be. In comic astrology, Prometheus describes the potential to see what is going to happen and to deal with it, to decide accordingly, and to make decisions that are going to help you in your fight or strive in life. On the dark moon Lilith, you have Hermes. Who was Hermes? He was, of course, the same god as Mercury for the Greeks, but he's also the father of Hermetic sciences, alchemy, astrology, and magic. And he was the god that, for instance, the alchemists were praying to for clear vision and clear thoughts. And on the black moon Lilith, you have Varuna, who is a Vedic god, and he was the creator god originally, but then later on he became the god of waters. And in comic astrology, it is linked to what I call Queen Karma. As I said in a previous video, when a ruler had an extramarital child, that was always a bastard. But if the queen delivered a child, that was always an heir. So that's what I call Queen Karma. And Altarf, which is Beta Cancer, although it's the Beta star, it's the second brightest star in the constellation of Cancer, but the whole Cancer constellation is not very, very bright. As you can see, it's 3.8 magnitude. And it is usually depicted, because it means Altarf means the stair. And it is usually depicted by a crab, and it's either its claws or its eye, one of its eyes. And it means that you have insight, you have great insight into magical things, and also great insight into anything. So you have this clairvoyance attitude. It's quite interesting that Altarf is on the black moon Lilith, which also is linked to clairvoyance. So what's your space-time moment, what you can actually look into. So here is Altarf. This is a different depiction of it, and here it is shown as one of the feet of the celestial Cancer, but it usually is the eyes or the claws, the way they are described. So this is Ash Wednesday on the 22nd. If you can look up in the sky, take a look at those planets, the new moon crescent, Venus and Jupiter, the two brightest of the planets, actually three brightest because there's moon as well. So in the night sky, you have three very bright objects, and it denotes some sort of love energy and also luck energy at your disposal at the beginning of Lent. Happy Lent, and thank you for listening. Bye-bye.